Good evening, everyone. My name is Elizabeth, the Education Coordinator for Marlene's Market and Deli. Tonight's special guest that we have with us, and it's always an honor to work with, we have Linda Frank. She is the Director and founder of Reflexology Academy Northwest and has a plethora of different certifications and expertise. And she is sharing her expertise tonight on reflexology for digestion. Thank you so much, Linda.
You're welcome. And I'll go ahead and pull up my, wait, where is it? Okay. Where's my screen there? Okay. Sorry, folks. I'm not seeing my PowerPoint. Not sure why this has not happened before. Let's see. I'm going to admit that person. Okay. I'll just do a reduce screen so I can see you all. Have there. There we go. Okay. Thanks for your patience. And if everyone would turn off silence your phones, that will be great. And if you would like to get here to full screen, if you would like to get if there's an issue in particular that you're interested in regarding digestive health, so either for yourself or for a loved one or a friend, if you would put that into the chat box. And Elizabeth, if you can check that and just sort of give me a rundown as people feed in, that would be great. So I'm going to give you a really brief dive into our digestive system, what it does, and some of the organs of the digestive system. We'll talk about some of the maladies or problems with the digestive system, and what you can do about them, some of the things that you can do about them. I am not a doctor, obviously. I am a health professional, certified by the Department of Health, and the National Institutes of Health considers reflexology a complementary and integrative healthcare modality. But some of the things I'll be sharing, please know that it's not meant to substitute medical care. So anything that I refer you to, it's a good idea to do your own research, check with your own medical providers. These are just, I am a researcher. I love to research. And of course, I teach my students about digestive health. And so these are some of the things that I've acquired and learned over the years. So in brief, your digestive tract, or it's oftentimes called the GI tract or the alimentary canal, a canal because it's hollow all the way from the mouth to the anus. So that is considered the primary organs of your GI tract or your digestive tract. These asterisks here mean that these are accessory organs. So the nose, the teeth, the tongue, the salivary glands, in addition to the liver, the gallbladder, and the pancreas, those are more solid organs. So technically your GI tract is just what's hollow. It's following food from ingestion down the esophagus into the stomach, and then from the stomach into the duodenum of the small intestine, and all of this in here is small intestine, and then from the small intestine through the ileocecal valve into the colon or the large intestine down into the rectum. And finally, for the food stuff that has been converted to usable energy for you to be defecated, to be sent out of the body. So that's our GI tract. Good digestion can't happen without the engagement of the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is it's the nerve that enables feed and breathe, or rest and digest. And to that, I add repair. The vagus nerve is the nerve that enables our system to repair itself, as well as, of course, to feed, to rest and digest, and to breathe. So has to do with fertility as well. The vagus nerve is called the wanderer. It goes from the brain, actually. It's a cranial nerve, and it comes down and it innervates the heart and lungs. It innervates almost all the organs of digestion. Okay, so it's a really important nerve, and we want it to function. The opposite of rest and digest and repair is fight or flight. And that's when we've got energy pumping into our muscles to get ready and to do stuff. So we're not going to be digesting our food when we're running from a saber-toothed tiger. Okay, that's how we're built, and that's how we survived over the ages. There's something called the gut-brain axis that's been discovered, and it consists of bidirectional communication, meaning it goes from the brain down to the enteric nervous system, which is the enteric, meaning digestive, organs of digestion, linking emotional and cognitive centers of the brain with peripheral intestinal functions. So the gut-brain axis has a lot to do with depression. It has a lot to do with the immune system. Here's a quote: "The immune cells residing in your gut make up the largest component of your body's immune system." Wow. Who would think that our digestion has something to do with immunity? 80% of the vagus nerve fibers give the brain input from the organs. So many of us are accustomed to thinking about the brain as being the central processing organ and giving direction to everything in the body. Well, it turns out 80% of the vagus nerve gives input up to the brain. So some will say that your digestive system is more important than the brain. It's calling the shots. Stress inhibits the vagus nerve and is usually involved in digestive problems. Okay. So we have the functions of the gastrointestinal or the GI tract. We have chewing. And actually, digestion starts with smell. That's what I had learned back in 1980 in my massage school, that sometimes smelling food can start the juices of digestion flowing. We masticate our food. We start digestion here in the mouth. Salivary amylase is going to break down carbohydrates, starting to break down food. When I was at the yoga ashram doing my yoga teacher training years ago, many years ago, we were asked to chew our food each mouthful 100 times. So every time you took a bite of rice, chew it for 100 times before you swallowed it to thoroughly digest it. Now, most of us don't have that time on our lunch hour or even for dinner, but that just speaks to the importance of taking your time and giving each process of digestion the time it deserves. Then we swallow the food and it travels down the esophagus into the stomach. Now, sometimes there are two sphincters here, meaning muscular contracting portals, if you will. And oftentimes, and we'll talk about GERD in a minute, or acid reflux, if the sphincter isn't functioning properly, we can get regurgitation of food. So then we have digestion, and that takes place from the stomach. A lot of mechanical and chemical digestion in the stomach. And then we have absorption, and that largely takes place in the small intestine. And what's shown over here, this little sidebar, are the villi, V-I-L-L-I, of the small intestine. So there are all these little projections along the lining of the small intestine. And what they do is they increase the area from which food can be digested, from which food can be absorbed. So these are capillaries and veins, little capillaries that will exchange the food stuff, take it in and help it to be processed. And then we have defecation. So the large intestine is responsible for taking water out from this mass that has been absorbed in the small intestine, and the large intestine takes the water out, turns this material into fecal waste to be exited from the body. So some common GI problems. Elizabeth, do we have some in the chat there of what people are interested in?
Not as of yet.
Okay, so constipation and diarrhea. Constipation's a huge problem for a lot of people, maybe more so than diarrhea, but diarrhea can actually be constipation. So sometimes all that's getting through is the loose stuff, that the bowel is so blocked that it's actually constipation, and it comes through as loose stool because all that's getting through is the watery stuff. We have food intolerances and food allergies, and they are different. Irritable bowel syndrome, IBS. We have C. diff, which is a more serious condition, or SIBO, small intestine bacterial overgrowth. Insulin resistance and diabetes, and GERD or acid reflux. Again, these are some of the most common. So constipation, some of the reasons: lack of roughage, unhealthy diet, dehydration is a huge factor. You need that water to help the matter move through the colon. Pharmaceuticals, especially antibiotics and opioids, can give us constipation. Physical inactivity, change of schedule, travel. So oftentimes in traditional Chinese medicine, the lung and large intestine meridians are often affected by changes in your schedule. So there are things that we can do, including working our reflexes to help our bowels to move along when we travel. And stress. And remember the vagus nerve. So the vagus nerve is responsible for rest and digest, for relaxation, so that we can, those muscles, we have these muscles in the large intestine, and they contract, and they're sort of like a slinky. One contracts and bing, 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 it moves into the next one, and that's called peristalsis. So it's going to move the matter along. Treatment, healthy diet. Diet's a huge factor. Again, not enough roughage. And again, we want to feed, we have good bacteria in our colon. So we want to feed that good bacteria. We want to drink adequate water, get adequate physical activity, massage and or reflexology. Some people take a medication to help their bowel move along. I'm more in favor of doing more natural things. Here are 6 yoga postures for bowel activity, the cobra. This one shows sitting on, you can sit on a block or not. And this is actually the position that some people in indigenous cultures use to defecate. They don't have a toilet. And so they squat. And the squatting actually helps to move the matter through the bowel. This side-lying position. So anyway, these are some physical things you can do. The importance of healthy bowel movements. A lot of people are surprised to hear that. Some people defecate more than once a day. And what we're doing when we're moving out the waste from the previous meal, we reduce the microbial load on the body. We eliminate destructive endotoxins, reduce inflammation, helps calm the brain and nervous system. So lots of good reasons. Enhance energy and mental clarity. There's something called the Bristol stool chart. So you can Google this up. This is a small version, and it will tell you what your stool looks like, whether it's healthy or unhealthy stool. So if you're interested, Bristol stool chart. So I mentioned the large intestine escorts the waste from the body. It's much wider than the small intestine, but shorter. So the small intestine's about 22 feet. That's a lot of stuff jammed in there. The colon is about 6 feet. Dense muscle. And I mentioned the peristalsis that moves through it. So intestinal flora, what we might call the microbiome or microbiota, you might have heard, these microbes live inside your intestines and influence your health, either in harmful ways or in beneficial ways. Immunity, we have a lot of immunity, again, in our gut. Vitamins, and I'll show you some close-ups of some of the microbes that are responsible for synthesizing vitamins B and K and absorbing calcium and iron. Metabolism, autism, some new research suggesting that there may be a connection between autism and decreased gut bacterial diversity. And there are a number of factors that contribute to our gut flora. Everything from coming through the vaginal canal and getting some of our mother's natural immunity that way, breast milk, pets, our environment. So lots and lots of factors. Inflammation and obesity, even obesity. So these are colored. This was from National Geographic. So these are dyed or stained, but E. coli, it can cause food poisoning, but most strains are helpful. A lot of people are really surprised to find that. I certainly was. In the gut, E. coli makes vitamin K and B12. And human feces contain a bacterium 50 times longer than E. coli, and these bacteria can affect health, mood, and even personality. There actually was a study done in the Netherlands about depression. They did it with 20 somethings, and charted the difference between whether someone just had a bad day due to some unfortunate circumstances or whether they slipped into depression. And they identified 5 bacterium, 5 probiotics that made a difference. And I can't ignore the appendix. So the appendix, it's called the veriform appendix, a little worm-like thing that's at the base of the colon. And it was a mystery. For a while, it was considered superfluous to our health. When I studied anatomy and physiology in 1980 in massage school, it was hypothesized that maybe the appendix had something to do with digesting grasses, lots of greenery when we were on the plains, grazing, so to speak. But now it's hypothesized that it's been found actually that the appendix holds a repository, a reserve of our microbiota. And so if we were to get cholera or something and totally empty our colon, which would mean all of our good bacteria would get flushed out, the appendix, excuse me, can supply it and help restore us back to health. So again, we went over constipation, diarrhea. I'll talk about food intolerance. What's the difference between intolerance and allergy? So this is going to be symptoms of a food allergy. It happens fast. You might get an itching or tingling in your mouth, your throat, mouth, face, and other areas of your body may swell, might become difficult to swallow. You can itch, have a rash. You might have difficulty breathing. Sometimes you can become nauseous or start vomiting, have a sore stomach, or develop diarrhea. This happens fast. So you're going to know if you've got a food allergy. Symptoms of a food intolerance. Symptoms develop 48 to 72 hours after eating the food. So that can make it pretty hard to tell what's causing it. So this is slower response. Abdominal pain or cramps, bloating and gas, etc. Irritable bowel syndrome, reflux, headaches, tiredness, foggy brain, muscular pains, postnasal drip, hives. Okay. So that's the difference between intolerance or an allergy. You could search for Ruth Hull and these two, how to do an elimination diet. You can eliminate certain foods from your diet for a certain period of time. And then when you reintroduce them, you see if you get those symptoms again. If your nose starts to run, or, you might get foggy brain, etc., whatever those symptoms were. So, and I highly recommend getting with a nutritionist or someone who can counsel you if you are interested to do an elimination diet to see. Of course, the most usual offenders are dairy, wheat, soy. The other article from Ruth Hull is how to find out which food triggers your symptoms. Also, you could search Dr. Andrew Weil plus anti-inflammatory diet. So he works a lot with the Mediterranean diet. Dr. Andrew Weil is a fantastic source. He's a Harvard-trained physician who spent many summers in the jungles of South America studying botanicals. And you can sign up on his website to get weekly or monthly emails, and you can choose whether you want them about foods or whether you want them about all products, or you can really pick and choose what you want to receive from him. You can also search a FODMAP diet, FODMAT. And I have information more about FODMAP in upcoming slides. Foods, sorry, this is so ghosted. I couldn't figure out why or get it clearer. But the foods that you should always buy organic because they hold on to pesticides. They're called the dirty dozen. And they're strawberries, cherries, pears, tomatoes, celery, potatoes, hot peppers, spinach, kale, nectarines, apples, grapes, peaches. And there's a video by Dr. Weil about pesticides on shoppers. I highly recommend getting organic food. I love Marlene's as a source of vegetables. I've never had carrots as good as the ones that I get at the organic carrots I get at Marlene's. And again, especially any of these foods you want to buy organic. Balance and variety. Variety really is more than just the spice of life. It's really critical. My Danish reflexology trainer said, people say to us all the time, I have oatmeal for breakfast every morning. It's not as good as varying what you eat. And in terms of balance, so I became macrobiotic and studied macrobiotics pretty extensively back in New York City when I was a massage therapist and had finished my massage training there. And the long and the short of it is, I realized I had gone over the edge. I had become so extreme in limiting my diet and watched someone eat an apple and thought to myself, oh, that's so yin. And I realized, gone over the edge. It was then that I started to moderate my diet and eat, even if I ate a little bit of sugar now and then, or a little bit of meat now and then, or a little bit of whatever it was, as long as it was organic meat. That's when I really became macrobiotic. That's when I really had balance in my diet. So Hippocrates, let food be thy medicine and medicine be thy food. And boy, the more I study the body, the more this is true. Food is your medicine. So again, now we're going to talk about irritable bowel syndrome, C. diff, and SIBO. So irritable bowel syndrome, just known typically as IBS, sometimes IBD for irritable bowel disorder. So it's not quite gotten to the stage of being a syndrome of happening regularly. Can cause pain in the belly, gas, diarrhea, constipation. Oftentimes people with IBS, they have alternating. Sometimes it's constipation, sometimes it's diarrhea, sometimes constipation, sometimes diarrhea. The cause isn't well understood. A diagnosis is often made on symptoms. Symptoms can include abdominal pain, bloating, diarrhea, constipation. Some people can control their symptoms by managing diet, lifestyle, and stress. Stress is a huge factor. Others will need medication. Here's from an article from, is antibiotic use a cause of IBD, irritable bowel disorder, worldwide? And it's generally accepted that high dosages of antibiotics and long-term use of antibiotics, especially when we were children, can what antibiotics do, anti-life, antibiotics, they kill all the bacteria. So they're wiping out our good bacteria. And then what happens is these bad guys, woo, they just come and flourish. So now some doctors are prescribing yogurt and other probiotics when you take antibiotics. Sauerkraut is a great probiotic. Kimchi. In fact, I had once read that you won't get the flu if you have sauerkraut or kimchi every day. So think about your gut bacteria. There's a great book. Oh God, I can't remember the name of it, but about a woman who took her daughter to indigenous cultures, and the way she explains good eating to her daughter is, let's feed those good bacteria. I love it. It was a cute little story. And eat some soybeans because your bacteria are craving it right now, Rosie, is what she'd say to her daughter. So back to FODMAP. Low FODMAP diets often used with digestive problems, but these foods may cause or aggravate irritable bowel syndrome. So again, you don't want to fool around on your own. Talk to your doctor, even a primary doctor, but a gastroenterologist if you have one. Which foods to eat. They're chain carbohydrates and sugar alcohols that are poorly digested by the body. They ferment in the large intestine during digestion. They draw in water and produce carbon dioxide, hydrogen, and methane gas that cause the intestines to expand. So C. diff is Clostridium difficile. It's so much easier to say C. diff. And it's a problem that occurs oftentimes when people have been hospitalized, and especially when they've been on antibiotics. And again, it's this bacteria just gets absolutely out of control. It can be deadly. So we, again, good reason for taking good care of what we eat, taking care of our bowels. They are doing fecal transplants for people with severe bowel issues. So they cultivate stool from a healthy donor, they process it, and they turn it into a liquid that is delivered either through the nose or through a colonoscopy, or it can be made into pill form. And they're having great success with it. There was one fatality years and years ago. They hadn't tested well enough for C. diff, and the recipient of the fecal transplant got C. diff. And so now all the precautions are in place and doctors are doing this procedure. They're also using fecal transplant for obesity. They have done research and found that when they take the stool from a thin person and give it to an obese person, that person starts losing weight in a healthy way and in a long-term way. So years ago in my massage training, I had been told that it's actually our gut bacteria that are creating our cravings. So they're like, feed me, feed me, feed me. And they tell us, chocolate cake, yeah, candy. So again, they're using it fecal transplant now for obesity as well as for bowel issues. Insulin resistance and diabetes. Most people are familiar with that. Insulin resistance is when your body's unable to respond and utilize insulin at the rate it's being produced. And your muscles, fat, and liver are unable to respond to insulin and can't absorb glucose or sugar from your blood. So you can have your doctor run tests to see if you have insulin resistance, which oftentimes is a precursor to diabetes. Acid reflux. a lot of people are reporting acid reflux or GERD, which is gastroesophageal reflux disease. So now they're selling PPIs, protein pump inhibitors, on the market. The little purple pill. I can't give the strongest caution against taking PPIs. Better that you first and foremost, do not eat. If you tend to have reflux and you notice it, do not eat right before bedtime. Don't eat up to 3 hours before you are going to lie down. Because, of course, when you lie down, you stand more of a chance of those contents in the stomach moving back up the esophagus. So that's first and foremost. I also would say don't drink coffee without, or yeah, coffee mostly. It's the acid in coffee, without having food in your stomach. So that can be another major contributor. Those PPIs supposedly contributed to stomach cancer. Now they're thinking maybe even Alzheimer's. So terrible, terrible side effects, and you cannot get off those things. So if you take them, I don't know what the period of time is at which your body, you go off them and your body absolutely revolts, and you will have the worst GERD, worse than before you started taking PPIs. So really do a lot of research if you're inclined. Some antibiotics can cause it. Fosamax, which is a drug for, that stuff, osteoporosis. Better that you do 12 minutes of standing yoga postures. That has been proven by an MD with hundreds of women. 12 minutes of standing yoga posture. The website is www.sciatica.org. SCIATICA, sciatica.org. And the exercises are up there. I tell people start with 1 minute. You're brushing your teeth, go on to 1 foot. You don't need to take pharmaceuticals. Oftentimes you can do it with more natural ways. So again, I'm not a doctor. I'm not giving medical advice. I'm just saying there are alternatives. Pain relievers. In fact, now they're finding with everything but Tylenol that you may be making acute pain, acute meaning it just comes on quick, it hasn't been there a long time, into chronic pain. Elizabeth, you have a question or?
Yes, we have one of our guests saying, I find HCl pills the best solution for me when I have acid reflux. Learned about this from the Natural Health Cyclopedia.
Thank you. So HCl, hydrochloric acid. We need acid to digest our foods. We don't, to take a pill that's going to minimize the acid. Well, how are you going to digest the food then? And there are some other, one of the natural things that's, I was going to say easy to do, maybe not so much, is to raise your bed up. And if you don't have a naturally a bed that inclines, you can put like a brick under the head of your bed. Like if you've got 4 posts on your bed, put a brick under each of the top stacks or legs to your bed. You don't want to try to elevate yourself with pillows. That's not going to work. But that's another way to minimize the impact. Also, don't drink alcohol, ideally, especially before bedtime, and for other reasons, for sleep reasons too. Here's Dr. Andrew Weil. I get so much wonderful information from him. Here he's saying bricks or blocks on your bed. Practice relaxation. Stress and anxiety can worsen reflux. Keep a log to keep track of foods that you had that make the symptoms worse. Eat a diet rich in fiber. Again, so much of this is back to basics. Eat well, whole grains, fruits and vegetables, especially organic fruits and vegetables. Get regular exercise, stay hydrated. I can't stress enough the importance of keeping hydrated. One of the first signs of dehydration is fatigue. And so what do we typically do when we're fatigued? We reach for sugar or caffeine. So instead, try drinking a glass of water. I will take a sip. He also recommends DGL. I'm not going to even attempt to say that word, licorice, and slowly chew the tablets or blah, 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 blah. You can, again, Google up this article. Just Google Dr. Andrew Weil, acid reflux. Licorice, the DGL licorice normally is not okay for people who are hypertensive and taking hypertension medication, but DGL doesn't have the same impact on reducing the efficacy of hypertensive meds. So about the PPI, serious infections, I mentioned stomach cancer is another one. And again, this is Dr. Andrew Weil. So let's get to reflexology for better digestive health. And let me just do a time check. All right, we're in good shape. So for those of you who aren't familiar with reflexology, it's based on the belief that there are maps of the body on the feet, hands, and outer ears. And reflexology is the art and science of applying firm and gentle pressure, usually alternating pressure, to points located on those maps to help balance and normalize function. And reflexology is not a substitute for standard medical care, but a complement to it. So here's showing a map of the body with the organs. So this is the stomach here, and this is the stomach reflex. Here's the liver over here. Here's the liver here, and here's the liver reflex, etc. So you could almost draw the body over a pair of feet. When it comes to the hands, and I'm going to teach you some hand reflexology because they are much more accessible than the feet. A lot of people can't slip off their shoes and put their foot in their lap and work on their feet in the middle of the day, but they can work on their hands and their ears. Is it an old therapy or a new complement? A lot of people say, oh, it's new, it's alternative. It's not. This is a hieroglyph from the physician's tomb in Saqqara, Egypt, of physicians working on hands and feet. We don't know what they're doing, so we don't trace our lineage back that far. We actually take our heritage out of the U.S. medical system. It was an ear, nose, and throat physician, Dr. Fitzgerald, and that's as far back as we go. So to the turn of the 20th century. Reflexology is considered a CAM, which is complementary and alternative medicine modality by the NIH, which is the National Institutes of Health. Now the National Institutes of Health we're all wanting to sort of usher out the word alternative and using the word complementary and integrative. We want to integrate reflexology into current medical care. Western medicine has a lot to offer. Surgery, heck, if I needed an antibiotic or I needed a tetanus shot, yeah, I'd take it. But we can integrate natural, old medicine as well. Reflexologists don't diagnose, we don't prescribe, we don't treat, we don't say we're going to cure someone. The body heals itself. We are giving an impulse to the body, and that goes up through the nervous system, and the nervous system sends a message back down to the body. So in general, we say helps normalize function. And one of the ways it does that, again, is the vagus nerve, the rest and digest. Reflexology has been known to reduce stress. 75 to 90% of doctor visits are believed to be attributable to stress. Reduce pain. We've got 3 fantastic studies, one of them against a placebo, which is the gold standard in the medical system. One is a peer-reviewed on a military base, and they all come in at 40 to 43% reduction of pain. Opioids get 50% if they're lucky, and look at the side effects from opioids. increased energy, better sleep. Almost everyone who has a reflexology session says they sleep better. So if we divide the feet into sections, we have this shoulder line. This is neck and head. This is the chest, showing here the lungs and the heart. And then we come to the diaphragm, which is that muscle of breathing. And we're going to be, for the digestive system, well, we would start in the mouth and we could work all the way down the esophagus. But here we have the esophagus coming into the stomach. Here's the liver. Here's the small intestine and the large intestine. So if we were to divide up areas of the feet, everything below the ball of your feet, down to the heel where the color of your foot changes color at the heel, is most of the digestive system. Now the hands get a little wonky because we got these thumbs here that, don't come right out where the fingers do. So in the hands, if you just think of, so this line where you crease your hand like that, that's the diaphragm. So that's going to divide the chest, and neck and head reflex will be above that. Anything from there down to the heel of your hand will be digestive reflexes in general. I'm not going to teach you where the stomach reflex is, where the liver reflex is, the individual reflexes. If you get in broad strokes that everything from the crease of your hand down to the heel of your hand is going to be digestive reflexes. Here is an image from this wonderful book, which is called Press Here, Hand Reflexology for Beginners. So this is an image out of this book. And if you'll notice, here's the chest in pink, okay? Then here's the green and the lime green. So we're concerned with all of this is going to be our main digestive reflexes, okay? Here's a much more detailed map. And again, you can see here's the large intestine. It goes across both hands. Small intestines, all in the heel of the hand. The caution that I want to make is whenever you see a reflexology map, all they show are the organs. And so people could look and say, oh, must be something wrong with my liver because there's pain over here. Well, there's a lot of organs that overlap, and there's a lot of other reflexes. We have skin, we have ribs, we have, vessels, we have fascia and muscles. So the problem could be in any of that tissue. So these maps are just sort of for at a glance if you're aiming for an area. But please, if you encounter some pain, don't think there's something wrong with that organ, because all that's listed on the maps typically are organs. Now, this is one of the most effective ways that you can work your digestive reflexes, and that's with one of these little bouncy balls. Okay, I have two sizes here, and I will tell you what you can Google up to order them, and they're fairly inexpensive. So what we do is we take the ball, and as you see in this photograph, you can just move this ball all around that area from the crease down to the heel of your hand. And you might hit some spots that you're going to say, ooh, that feels really, really, really good. You can use your imagination for something to supplant the ball. But this is really the most ideal and the quickest way, and it just feels good. These also are sold as like for kids with ADHD. So it really is very calming. And that vagus nerve comes down through the diaphragm. So you want to, when you use this ball, you're actually helping the diaphragm to relax and thereby the vagus nerve. So the balls that I got are the small ones. They're like 3/4 of an inch. Are you could just find them on Amazon Sumine store, and they're called small bouncy balls. And they should be $9.99. 100 of them for $9.99. Okay. Sumine store on Amazon, small bouncy balls. Then there's a 1-inch ball. And I got mine from Rhode Island Novelty, 27 millimeters, assorted bounce balls, 250 of them. Now, I use them because I give them to clients. You probably wouldn't use 250 of them. You might use 100 of them, though, of these small ones, giving them to friends and family. Put them together in somebody's Christmas stocking, or, make a little, and just tell them about being able to use it effectively to work their reflexes. Now, these are some, this is from a book by Kevin and Barbara Kuntz, just to show you some ways with your thumb is the way that we usually work these reflexes. So you certainly can get in, and we call it thumb walking. I don't have the time to teach you that. By the way, if you want to learn reflexology in detail, I am starting my certification program January 13th, but I also have given classes for the general public and also for massage therapists. So if you're interested in a class, drop me a line. My email is in the last slide, linda@reflexologyforbetterhealth.com, and let me know of your interest. But these are some ways you can go in with many fingers and work this way. You could get in with your knuckle, right? And work all these digestive reflexes. Okay. This is going to be one of the most important reflexes that you'll learn. And again, I'm keeping it simple tonight. So the vagus nerve, the only place in the body where the vagus nerve has an external location is in the ear. So we've got our ear canal, right? If you take your finger and you do this, sort of head it straight in, if you were to go all the way, you got the ear canal, right? So back up, and there's a ridge of cartilage before you slip into the canal. And toward more, right above sort of the middle, you'll feel a little bit harder cartilage, and right above that, you almost sink right into it. And back up a little, and you're on the vagus nerve. So it's maybe a little hard to describe, but here's the ear canal and the vagus nerve reflex right here. Don't worry if you don't find the precise location, because I say here, Noget was the French physician who mapped reflex points in the ears. There are Chinese points and there are his European points. He says if you're anywhere in this bowl, anywhere in what's called the concha, anywhere here, because these are heart and lung reflexes, you're going to be getting the vagus nerve. So don't worry if you don't have the precise location. But again, if you head for the canal, back it up a little, and you'll feel at the middle of that cartilage, there's a little bit harder space, and right above it is a little dip, and you're going to go just above it and back a little, and that's your vagus nerve. Both ears. I don't recommend doing both at the same time unless you're in private, because people might wonder what you're doing if you're trying to drown them out. So when I pull up at a light, I just slip my finger in my ear, like if I'm rushed or something, and boy, does that calm me down. So vagus nerve in the ear, and you're welcome to take a picture of the screen if you'd like. Now we have the World Reflexology Foundation, or WRF, and they give online self-help workshops for the public. Their whole mission is to bring reflexology to the wider public. So this is a link, and if you go to their website, you could search for digestive system health. This was done maybe in October, September 25th, 2021. So it's an older one. But they tell you the points to work on the feet, the hands, and I thought they had ears too. There is a workshop coming up February 3rd on stomach health. Very convenient. So here's if you go to their website, you can register for the workshop and you'll get the link. And again, it's for novices. It's for the general public. So World Reflexology Foundation. So free nutrition resources, Sound Outlook, which is the Marlene's Market and Deli monthly magazine. Fabulous articles in there. Tells you what's on sale. And they also have recipes. And you can get back issues by going to the website. You just go to Marlene's Market and Deli, and I think Elizabeth is under Sound Outlook, and then you just do the drop down and you can get back issues. And they have recipes there too. Free recipes from Bastyr University. That's one of the leading universities for training naturopaths and acupuncturists, etc. Dr. Andrew Weil, I mentioned. Dr. Axe also has a lot of health-related topics. Feed your soul too. Get plenty of your G vitamins. Your G vitamins are gratitude. It does wonderful things for your body. So a good exercise, if you're not accustomed to practicing gratitude, is every day write down 1 or 2 or 3 things that you're grateful for. Put them on a Post-it note on your computer or your printer or your refrigerator. Light a candle rather than curse the darkness. You can use cancel for self. So as we went through these slides, and I'm talking about, dysbiosis of the gut and how the bacteria can get the bad bacteria, just say cancel for self, meaning you're telling your subconscious self, not going to hang on to this. I do it like when I pass an accident on the road. I just immediately say cancel for self. When I wish that I had that, it comes from Hawaiian Huna. I wish I had that simple technique when I was in massage school, because we would read about all these pathologies and we'd start getting headaches or sore throats and symptoms of, tetanus. Who knows? You start to absorb things. So you can just say cancel for self, meaning I don't want to absorb any of this. Donate to food banks. Cash gets food banks so much more, like 6 times more than actual food donations. So if you're inclined to share the wealth and share the health, I highly recommend it. Again, it's part of the G vitamins and bioorganic. So we have a couple minutes for questions. We got 5 minutes. And I'll leave this up here for my websites, the Academy and my business, Reflexology business. Thank you all for attending.
Thank you so much, Linda. What a wonderful presentation as always.
Thank you. Stop sharing. No questions?
Oh, Wendy, you have a question?
Well, I just wanted to thank you.
You're so welcome. And if you're down in Olympia, Wendy Katz is a board-certified reflexologist.
Thank you.
Works with hospice patients.
That's incredible. Thanks for your work, Wendy.
Oh, you're welcome. I love doing it.
Well, and you had a wonderful teacher as well.
Very much so.
Okay.
Oh, wonderful. Mary said, helpful and wonderful presentation. Thanks so much.
Thanks for attending.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Very
Go ahead,
wonderful
unmute.
presentation.
Pardon?
Wonderful presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Fanny.
Can you hear me? I have a question.
I can hear you. Go ahead, Mark.
Perfect. So I'm a 30-year carpenter guy, and right in my right palm, my hammer hand, let's say, it's always been tight there. I'm always doing some massaging of it. And I also have lower intestinal stuff. And I wonder, can the cause and effect work both ways? Is what
Yeah.
I've always wondered. And I guess at a point it doesn't really matter, but
That's a great question, Mark. Not question mark, but question mark. It can work both ways. We don't know, chicken or egg. Whether that creates, certainly when you're doing something every day and putting that stress on the tissue. Just a real quick story. One of my instructors had somebody come in with severe depression. I mean, he was near suicidal, and she measured his feet, and he was wearing a 9.5 shoe. Now the brain reflexes are in the toes, so he was cramping his toes in so severely. So she got him to buy larger sizes of shoes, and by the time they finished, by the time he was into size 11, which is what he normally would wear, he was teaching country dancing, and his mental health was like fabulous. So anytime we do something repetitive, it's whatever you can do to massage them, do this kind of thing, that kind of. There's qigong for the hands. You can look at it up on YouTube. So whatever you can do, this sort of thing, just
I do
to
lots
keep
of that.
good. Yeah.
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 Right on.
So,
Thank you. That's about what I thought.
yeah, you're welcome. And I hope you got some useful information tonight for your digestive issues.
For sure. Thank you.
And the ball, I'm telling you, these little balls are just, if you can get order them, the 100, especially because they're less expensive. I mean, $10 and you get 100 of them, and you can just keep one in the car, keep one by the TV, keep one by your desk, keep one in your toolbox. That would be great, because it will help to hydrate the tissue. So fascia, which wraps around things, it wraps around individual muscle fibers, it wraps around our vessels, it wraps around, we have retinaculum, these big bands of fascia, but we want to hydrate the fascia. So this ball is something that helps to do it. In fact, there's something called melt method. This is a melt method ball, and it's melt method for hands and feet. And you do you mostly compress, and then you shear, and that's designed to help the fascia to stay hydrated. Because when that fascia gets dry, it can be like concrete. It can feel like a horse standing on your nerves because it's dried out. And so the more we can hydrate it, the more we can help everything to flow smoothly. And that may, I'd be interested to hear if you start doing this and you are doing things, to massage it. But yeah, at least if it's keeping it from getting worse, that would be a good thing.
Right on. Appreciate it.
Thanks for coming to today's session.
Of course. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, one more.
Leslie asked, could I get a copy of the PowerPoint?
Elizabeth, are you going to put this up on YouTube?
Yes, and we had live streamed this to our Federal Way Facebook page, but yes, it will be on YouTube very shortly.
Okay, so we'll get you a link, Leslie. Okay, thanks again.
Linda.
Oh, yeah.
If someone is dehydrated, they can feel it in their feet.
Sometimes you can feel dehydration in the feet. Sometimes you can see it. You can actually see the tissue, and you can see very dry heels, or maybe you see very dry toes, or maybe you see very dry the ball of the foot, and that may indicate that tissue, particular parts of the body are more dehydrated than others. But hydration is so, so, so important.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks again, you all. Have a great evening.
All right,
Thank
thanks.
you so much.
Okay,
You
bye-bye.